So we'll just welcome everybody to the webinar this afternoon. We are delighted to have all the way from Graz in Austria, Dr. Hedwig Unger, who is part of the Center for Austrian and European Higher Education Law and Governance. And she is going to be talking to us today about European university alliances and their impact on national higher education governance, and in particular, the case of Austria and Ireland. So in times of change and upheaval from I shan't say an American perspective, but in times of change and upheaval nonetheless, the notion or the concept of alliances seems really important. So we are looking forward to hearing what it is you have to say, Hedwig. So for those people that are here, we are going to wait a couple of minutes just to let people in. We do have about 12 people registered, so we shall see who turns up in the next couple of moments, but we will begin shortly. And for everyone, we are going to record the presentation, but not the question and answers that shall occur at the end. So in a moment, we shall begin. Actually, I'll look at my clock and I'll say that we shall begin at 13:04, if that's okay, Hedwig?
Yes, I'm fine.
Perfect.
Shall I try to share my slides?
Exactly. You do that and set yourself up and make sure everything is perfect for you.
Can you see my slides? Yeah?
Yes. Perfect.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, so it is 13:04. I am going to once again introduce Dr. Hedwig Unger, and I'll hand it over to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David, for this nice invitation. It's really a pleasure for me to be with you via this webinar, and therefore also building a bridge between Ireland and Austria. And this cooperation stems from a research visit, which I could do last August due to funding of my university. And I was very grateful to be welcomed by the Center for the Study of Higher Education at UCD. And it was really an enriching experience for me. I was really amazed. I could stay there for 4 weeks and get a little bit deeper into the Irish higher education system, because I'm a lawyer and a political scientist here at the University of Graz at the Center for Austrian and European Higher Education Law and Governance. So we try to do both and to have a look on the European higher education landscape somehow, and to collect best practices and to be inspired also via this view on the European scale. And we are several people here. The lead is the head of the center is Professor Dr. Klaus Peuer. And we also had the opportunity to spend 1 week together in Ireland, in Dublin last August, to get to know a little bit more in detail also UCD and the Higher Education Authority, Trinity College. So we tried to collect some input for our research here, because we are doing several things. I have a colleague who is doing research on good scientific practice in a comparative perspective. Another person does some research on the impact of artificial intelligence on higher education learning and so on. So, and my personal research project is dedicated to the governance of higher education systems in a comparative perspective. I try to have a look more on the instruments of state governance in a comparative perspective. And now this issue of European university alliances comes right on the top on the agenda. And I also have been appointed as a member on the task force and legal entity of the Arcus University Alliance, which is the alliance the University of Graz is a member of. And so I'm now quite diving into this really fascinating sphere of legal and political issues. And that's also the reason why I have chosen this subject for today: European University Alliances and their impact on national higher education governance, the case of Austria and Ireland. And I will try to do a sort of a comparison on selected issues of this quite big theme in general. So it's also work of progress, I have to say. It's part of my current research. So I will be happy also to get some input from your side, perhaps from your Irish perspective. So in times of geopolitical tensions, and now I will go right into the subject already, it's really important that universities are gathering together and are trying to collaborate. And international cooperation is not something new for European universities, for universities in general, because it's sort of a kind of nature of scientific habitus, because the scientific community always is a global one. It's not just a national one in the best case. And so these university alliances, university cooperations are already an issue which is on the table for quite a long time. But it has been a new initiative driven by a speech of President Emmanuel Macron in the year 2017, when he had this whole speech at the University of Sorbonne in Paris. And he really emphasized on this new idea of creating European universities as a lighthouse for European excellence in research and teaching, but also as a sort of a new driver for European integration. And those both sides, so having European deepening of European integration via in fostering also the exchange of students on the one hand, and deepening research collaboration on the other hand, and by this also deepening the European collaboration, European idea, European integration in total. This really was the right moment to give this initiative of European higher education collaboration a new impetus. Because at this time, the Bologna process was already in place, but had some problems, so to say. It was lacking in speed and in power. And this idea of President Macron really gave a new spirit to this whole idea. And the European Commission took it over and really fostered this idea and started to fund, to reflect on how it could be implemented, created the European University Strategy of 2020, and gave a lot of funds to this project. So and now you can see the overview of my short presentation here. So I'm already in the point one, and I will switch over to this. So that was the speech of President Macron, sort of a start. And then the European Commission answered via its European strategy for universities and created this idea of the European University Initiative as one flagship idea of one flagship project. And why was it, what's the legal and political reason behind? The European Commission does not have the legal competence to really create new higher education institutions in the member states, because it's the competence of the member states. So education is part of the member states' competence, and so the European Commission only can foster, can support, can encourage collaboration, and the main instrument of fostering collaboration is giving funds. And so they really organized huge amounts of sums for this initiative of creating new European university alliances. And then the first call and the second call and the several calls were very successful. Nobody thought that this would be have such an impact. And many universities gathered together and participated in this call. And now we can say that there are more than 65 European university alliances all over Europe. And so 5 years after the real launch of this initiative, everybody can say it's really a big success story. And my research question now based on this was, does these European universities already have an impact also on the national higher education landscape and on the national higher education systems and the national higher education governance? And so I tried to look more in detail into this issue, because I think then it really has the power to transform, so to say, the national higher education landscape and also the European higher education landscape. And I tried to and perhaps some preliminary reflections also on this. As I'm a lawyer, I first of all have a look into the legal framework and the legal foundations of an idea. And when it comes to universities, then we also always have to think of university autonomy and academic freedom, which is so to say the basic legal and ideal principle of university activities. And it's quite interesting to see that the legal foundations of academic freedom and institutional autonomy in Austria and Ireland are quite different, but the value, I think, and also the legal importance of those concepts is, I would say, equal to my impression. But these are the preliminary principles we have to have in mind. And then based on this, we can analyze also the political framework conditions and the funding, and all this is based on the respect for the rule of law. But I think this is hopefully not an issue in Ireland nor in Austria. So what I did in my research now, I had a look into the legal documents, the main acts, the main legal documents building the legal framework for the activities of universities in Austria and Ireland. And for Austria, I can say it is the University Act 2002. So now I can have them. Yes, the Austrian University Act is, so to say, the legal framework on this base universities are doing their job. And then we have another, and the concept of autonomy is anchored even in the Austrian Constitution. I haven't now, not in the slides, but there's an article in the Austrian Constitution fixing university autonomy. And I wanted to know whether European university alliances are already reflected in the Austrian legal system concerning universities. And I had a look into this Austrian University Act, and I was quite surprised, because I really could find the word European Universities Alliances. And then I've put the quote here on the slides. So we have in the section 51, there's a section containing different definitions for the law, and there we can really read that, perhaps I can read it, short-term mobility of students, so this is the word which is explained, is the attendance of individual courses in physical or virtual form, up to a total of 15 ECTS credits, which enable students to gain an international learning experience within the framework of the Erasmus Plus program, e.g. blended intensive programs, and now it comes, the European Universities Alliances, or the completion of micro-credentials. And all these three programs feature also in this university strategy of the European Commission. So now here we can really see a reflection of the European Commission policy, so to say, in the national law regulating universities. And this is quite new, because it had been integrated in 2024 only. In Austria, we have the system that the ministry is concluding performance agreements with the single universities, outlining the different strategic goals and also the sum of money, the lump sum, which is given to the universities in Austria. And this section 13 contains the content of the performance agreement on a legal basis. So that's the legal basis for the content of the performance agreements. And also here you can read that increasing internationality and mobility is a part of the performance agreements. And in this context, you can understand that participating in an alliance, in a European University Alliance, is an advantage for a university in order to get more money from the state. But this has been integrated already earlier. It's not a new development. So this was the university law. And then I had a look into the performance contract, the individual performance contract of the University of Graz. And here also you can see that the performance contract has several entries of the participation of the University of Graz in, especially in this case, the ARCUS European University Alliance. And I haven't quoted it because it would have been too long, but you can read that the participation of the University of Graz in this ARCUS European University Alliance is an important part of the internationalization strategy of the University of Graz. So this means that also in a legal way, the University of Graz is bound to participate in this European University Alliance. So it's not just a matter of freedom or of autonomy, so to say, but now it's really, there's an agreement, there's a legal obligation now that the University of Graz participates in this European University Alliance of ARCUS in this case. And I think that's quite interesting. And now you can already say that this European idea has really been implemented on the ground, so to say. And there, I think this is also, now you can also state that this idea of the European higher education area is really gaining importance, and it's getting concrete, so to say. And then there's another issue which I'm now confronted with, being a member of this task force on legal entity. Perhaps I get on a little bit further on this issue now, because since these European University Alliances is such a huge success story, and there has been this idea now, how can we guarantee sustainability of these collaborations? Because it's easy to collaborate when you get a lot of money for this collaboration, but will you break up when the money has ended, or will you really continue your collaboration? So is it getting sort of independent from the starting push of money given by the European funds? And I would say that after 5 years now, this European University Initiative is in this phase of consolidating and looking for a sustainable future in funding terms, but also, and this is a sort of reflection and consequence, also in legal terms. And that's, I think it's a really interesting development, so that the different European university alliances which exist all over Europe now are trying to consolidate also in a legal way. And there are different scenarios, so to say, and the European Union has also funded 4 experimentation projects in this respect last year. And the outcomes of these experimentation projects have been presented at Christmas, so to say, and some weeks ago, another big report has been published by the European Commission pointing out the potentials of the European University Alliances. And you can say in general that there are, I would say that there are mainly 2 options. Either you choose a European legal status, which gives sort of also a symbolic value that you really underline the European scale of your collaboration and also activity, meaning being ready for European funds and European competitions, and trying also to foster European collaborative research. Or you are choosing a national legal entity because you are not quite sure whether you will really proceed in your cooperation. And the main European legal status, which is on the table now, is the European Grouping of Territorial Cooperation, EGTC. And this European status has been created in fostering the collaboration of neighboring territories of different EU member states. For example, Tyrol and South Tyrol in Austria are building such an EGTC, but also in in cultural cooperation now and in scientific cooperation now. It has been used now. And the problem is it's not really tailored to the academic needs. And so there are some doubts and skepticism whether it's good or not to choose this option. So this is one possibility, and the other one is going for a national solution, like a non-profit association. And Austria, but the thing is, you have to implement supplementing laws, national laws, supplementing this European directive. And in Austria, there is not such no federal law supplementing this European directive. So it's hard, or it's at the moment not simple for universities in Austria to go for such a European legal status option. So we would have a national association as an alternative. And I also wanted to have a look what is doing Ireland. Now I have a look. So after this, I would go to the Irish situation. So I tried also to have a look on the University Act, but I can do it fast now because I have not found any entry in this law, neither in the Higher Education Authority Act. I didn't find an entry either. So I had a look to the performance agreement of the University College Dublin between the HEA and the University College Dublin. And here I found several entries. For example, the first one, we are Ireland's global university, the largest English-speaking university in the European Union, and an active partner in the Una Europa University Alliance and other major university networks. So there are several others, for example. And then the other one, it's interesting that the UCD will drive impactful research. And then there are several issues mentioned with Una Europa partners. So not just the issue of teaching and learning, but also to a growing extent, research. And then UCDs will exploit the extensive reach of the Una Europa network. So it's seen, I think, as a big opportunity, also here for the graduates, and the opportunity to build broad mobility pathways for students and staff. So I have the impression that the participation of UCD in this European University Alliance is also an important part of the identity, perhaps already, of UCD. But that's not something I would like to ask you, how do you feel and you see it. And then I had to look into this idea whether there is a special law for legal entities for European universities in Ireland, and I just could find one law, but I had not the opportunity to dive more into details. So perhaps there's anybody who has some experience with this, and also with this idea of non-profit association. So I would be also interested whether European university networks in Ireland are legally established as non-profit associations. So whether this is a common phenomenon, or if there's another option which is preferred. So now, I'm sorry, I would like to draw my conclusions and to say, so since I wanted to ask whether there is an impact of the European University Alliances on national higher education systems, and especially the governance. And I would say yes, to a growing extent. As first of all, the European University Alliances are a big success story, and I personally think that they will grow also in future. And it's not just an issue of intellectual and academic collaboration, but indeed it's also a matter of deepened European integration and political collaboration, and perhaps also an instrument to strengthen our European identity and to find a new self-confidence also as Europeans in this changing world, and communicating via academic channels can also foster political diplomacy. And I think Ukraine is perhaps an example we can cite here. So that's the first point. And the second point, yes, I think there's a growing impact of European university alliances on national higher education systems and governance. And it's interesting to see that it has already, at least in Austria, found its way into the law, into the university legal framework, and definitely into the governance system, instruments, so the performance agreements. And that's what we can see in both countries, as well in Austria, as well as in Ireland. And I think this is not a development which has been finished, but it's a development which is going on. And I think we will see, and I hope, a bright future for this cooperation. And we are now doing also a part of this in another context. But I think this is an idea for the future in order to create and deepen networks all over Europe and from Europe outside to the world. So thank you very much for your attention. I look forward to your questions and to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Hedwig. Thank you so much indeed. Okay, so if there are questions from the floor, please put them to the Q&A or indeed raise your hand. And you can actually add them into the chat as well. And if you want to take the floor, we will give you the camera too. Hedwig, if you can actually stop sharing your slides, yes, that would be great. And I have a couple of questions, if I may, to start. The obvious one is, in terms of no immediate reference in the Irish legal system, so obviously I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know this in depth, but do you think that's a common occurrence across other EU countries, or would Ireland be unique in not having an explicit reference to the alliances and the necessity of them?
Thank you for this question. I have not done all my research, but I've, for example, done the research in Saxony in Germany, because Leipzig is also a university member of this Arcus network. And that's an interesting phenomenon, because in Saxony, they have really created a special regulation concerning European university alliances in the university law. So there is another reference in the law, in Germany, for example, in Saxony. That's what I know. But concerning the other laws, I still have to do my comparison. Yeah.
Okay, and so in terms of UCD in particular, that we have the Unit Europa kind of like referenced, and indeed the other networks, again, is that a common occurrence that we would have that, or would other institutions have that as well, do you think?
Sure. I think when there is a participation in the European University Alliance, then I think universities are proud of it, and it's getting more and more a part of also their identity, and I think it's a natural phenomenon that this is reflected also in the performance agreements, because as far as I've understood it, the performance agreements, you fix aims, and you fix aims which you want to achieve. And when there is already something going on, then you can easily fix it, because you will achieve it, I think, with this certain security, certainty.
So then just one little extra question, if I may, which is just kind of following on from that then. So in terms of using it as a catalyst, as a driver, you know, is there a legal necessity, do you think, to actually enhance or to solidify these agreements, these alliances, as opposed to just, because at the moment, obviously, it's the money that kind of dictates how these things happen. It isn't necessarily something that people seem to strive to vis-a-vis their law or their institutional strategy. It's just an opportunity. So is there another kind of modality in terms of sustaining the alliances henceforth that we should be looking to? And is that putting it into Irish law, putting it into higher education law? Is that the way forward?
I think when you're collaborating for a certain amount of time, and you see, yeah, well, it's going on well, and we would like to continue our collaboration, I think at a certain moment, you will think of the legal stability of this network. And because also when people start to change, for example, because these alliances all live of very enthusiastic people who are ready and eager and participate and give their energy and their power into these personal networks. And at a certain moment, you will have to find a legal construction in order to guarantee the sustainability. And so I think that's the fascinating point of this time now, that many European university alliances are reflecting on establishing a legal entity. So this is really the thing of the moment of the time now. And it's not so easy to communicate to rectors, for example, what is the added value? Because you will have also to share your decision-making power to some extent, and what can you gain for it? But there are different logics in the European University Alliances. Some of them really want to become a single campus, a single university. They really want a merger, and they are really pushing forward. And others say, no, we just want to stay in our sort of a loose cooperation, and it's fine enough for us. So there are different strategies also of these European University Alliances to get on.
Okay, thank you.